All right, good morning everyone. I'm Melissa from Humanistic HR. I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about what HR does, because it seems to be a bit of a mystery to many people. Some call it a dark art. I don't. I hope I can kind of unravel the mystery behind what HR actually is. But first, a little bit about me, because I think it's important to know who's behind the business. And the reason I called my business Humanistic HR was, well, firstly, because all of the good names were gone when I went to register it. But secondly, because humanistic is the best way to describe the way I do HR, which is really about helping to find the best in people and to bring out the best in people through encouragement and fostering a positive kind of environment. So this is my family and I. Over on this side, you see we've sort of got a couple of not real dogs who we sort of went from a family of having big dogs. We had sort of Rotties and Staffies and Labradors, and when my daughter was young, we switched to a cavoodle and thought they were so much fun and really easy compared to bigger dogs. And so then we got another one, and we've realised that our plans of having 10 of these little fun things would stop at 2, because the first one was unusually good, and the second one is very spirited and full of personality. He's Hank. We also have a 15-year-old little black cat that hated life in Melbourne, so he lived the first 15 years of his life in the cupboard. And since we've moved to Queensland, he's come out of the cupboard and is very friendly and kind. So we think he might have lived with arthritis potentially for most of his life, or in some sort of discomfort. I have a 14-year-old daughter, and this is my husband Jake, and we just really love getting out and about. So as campers, moving from the unsunny climate of Victoria to the sunny climate of Queensland has been a great change. So for those of you who ask what is HR, here's a very busy slide to tell you sort of what HR actually is. You'll know that I work quite closely with Kelly Charity in this group, who does the recruitment component of HR. So Kelly finds you the right people for your business. And then I support businesses to make sure that when they've found the right people, that they create an employee experience that can retain and really get the most out of those people whilst they're in their employment. And so there's quite a few sort of technical aspects of that. So they're sort of looking at how are you attracting people, making sure that you're looking for the right set of skills and bits and pieces, and also making sure that you're setting up your employees right. So there's a lot of employment contracts, understanding modern awards, making sure you're paying your people right, because employer compliance is getting more and more complicated as each day goes on in Australia. And there's also things like wage theft laws, which have attract criminal convictions. And so it's really setting your people up right is such a pivotal thing to do, which we can help you with and sort of do all of that in the background for you. But then we sort of make sure that we can also support you in making, when your employee starts, making a really good impression on them. And they usually, I think Kingsley sort of pointed out, it's good to understand the statistics around employee attraction and onboarding. You lose your employee in the first 30 days. So the experience that you provide to them defines to them how long they want to stay in your employment. So have a think about making that impression a really good one. And a good one is an honest one. So it's not about sort of polishing something and making it out to be something that it's not, but we can actually help you to kind of make sure that you are providing an impression on your people that gives them a really good idea of what they're up for and what's expected of them and how they can perform well in your business. We then sort of support you in going through. We do a lot of teamwork, so I think I've worked with a few members in the group here around team conflict, team performance, setting values, making sure that everyone has a common understanding of the expected behaviours in your organisation and how we succeed as part of a member of the group that is your business. I help with a lot of bigger, growing and contracting organisations around things like retention, progression, recognition and reward, health and wellbeing programs that kind of really anchor people in, help them to see that there's a career in your organisation. Also support businesses with change management. So if you need to restructure, you might need to contract, or you need to rapidly grow, I can help you put plans in place to enable you to do that. And then when you're looking to kind of move people on from your organisation, that could be at their own volition, but it can also be things that you need to do to kind of trigger that exit so I can support you through it. And essentially all of this is kind of like a big way to demystify and say, this is what we do, this is the dark art behind the scenes. But when you work with Humanistic HR, I have a small team of people that I work with, and we kind of pull it all together in the background and make it look like you're doing all of these bits and pieces. We break it down for you and make it really simple and take a lot of this kind of technical jargon out of it. So I work really closely with business owners and with senior leaders of a business to coach them and to guide them and to give them all of the steps and to give them processes and programs that make it easy for them to implement these sort of tricky things. This is just a bit of an overview of the context of why HR is getting more and more important. HR originally was a personnel bolt onto a business. They filled in forms, they kept employee records. And it sort of evolved more and more to step into the law, really. Employment law is a specific piece of law. We have the Fair Work Act, which is like it's a very meaty tome. It sits on my desk and I leaf through it all the time. And that underpins a lot of the work that we do. But, just to give you some context, there's 121 modern awards. So that's 121 different ways you can pay your employees. And so that's consolidated. There was thousands before they went through and kind of made the modern award environment. There's also national employment standards that run across all of the different modern awards. So that's a core set of standard arrangements that you need to be compliant with. But the current federal government is actually shifting those. They're looking at kind of contracting that and shifting the favour for protections to be from employers to employees. And so it's really important in a changing environment that we stay across all of this. I touched on before that wage theft is a criminal act now in Queensland, so we need to kind of really keep across this. Recent changes have included positive duty on employers for sexual harassment to prove that they actually weren't engaging in sexual harassment. There's 15 new psychological hazards that kind of recognises that mental health injuries at work are very, very expensive and protracted to recover from, and so it's really important that we comply with these psychological hazards, and so we have things in place that make it very clear for our employees what's expected of them, and that we all sort of comply with different codes of behaviour. Changes to rules for contractors, so you can no longer have just kind of rolling contracts for employees, and fixed term contracts sort of have different rules about them. And when I made this slide, I was thinking, oh God, Campbell's going to fall asleep when he listens to all of this. But the reality is, the stuff is very dry. It's a lot to keep across, and it's ever changing. So that's what we do. We keep across this for all of our employers. We read all of these kind of very complex pieces of jurisdiction changes in the law, but then also cases that get heard and found that create precedent that mean that employers need to make changes. So we keep across the boring stuff and then translate that for you into what you need to do in your business to make sure that you're just kind of skimming across the mitigation of the risk. This stuff costs you an absolute bomb. Yeah, you're right.
Just about all those boxes.
Have you? Yeah. Oh, we should talk. So I thought about helping you to understand some of the things that I commonly do for my clients. So in starting Humanistic HR, I came from a world of corporate, profit and not-for-profit, and I thought, up here on the Gold Coast, there's just a massive incubator for small business. Maybe I could help them to get access to sort of corporate level knowledge, which is really expensive, but just tap into it ad hoc, which would be more affordable. So these are the sorts of things that I do on a really regular basis. Every week I'm providing employment contracts and advice on modern awards that apply to businesses, pay rates, policies. And policies are so, let's be honest, they're boring. No one wants a policy, they're just rules. But they are an insurance policy. So if you set the scene really well in the first place, then everyone understands what the rules are, and then you can work within that scope. So I've developed policies that aren't, 13-page documents per policy. They're actually kind of short and sweet, but just provide the ground rules. So try to be really pragmatic with the work I do. I do a bit of organisational change, so whether that's growth, systems implementation, workforce planning, contracting. I try to encourage my employers to do HR audits so that they can kind of get a bit of a status point on where they currently are with their employer obligations and where their gaps of risks are. Lots of leadership coaching, it's my favourite thing to do. If it all boils down to one thing, what I do every day is I coach. So I talk to different business owners and I just help them to understand different ways they can navigate a problem. And then they take that and then they apply it in their business the way that works for them. I do a lot of culture work, so looking at how to kind of make things as good as possible so that people feel really good about being at work. And really good means being clear, understanding the goals and the purposes and understanding how they contribute to the overarching goal. Performance management, performance improvement, industrial matters, fair work, representation, onboarding programs and a fair amount of sort of remuneration benchmarking because the world went bonkers post-COVID and everyone paid $1 million for everything. And so now it's all needing to kind of straighten up and correct. So looking at what are suitable pay scales for different roles in an organisation. And then I thought just finally, my last little slide was just second last slide, sorry. These are the types of products that I like to work with. So I've started a small business owner membership where founders, CEOs of small businesses of up to 4 employees. I work with them on a monthly basis to kind of give them access to a lot of the key things that they need without all of the guff and fluff. It includes some coaching on what their plans are for the next sort of few months and things like employment contracts and things like that. There's an outsourced HR subscription where when you've got more employees, we can provide more advice, that tends to be the space that businesses need help with. Right up to bolt-on HR teams. So I have all aspects of the HR function within my network, and for a couple of organisations, I actually provide a bolt-on HR team. So we've got a couple of clients that are sort of around the 70 employee mark, and it'd be really like $600,000-700,000 per year for them to pay for a HR team, whereas we just provide them with access to the service that they need for the size of their business, essentially a part-time HR team for a lot more sort of cost-effective price. And then this is me. So I have 25 years experience in HR. I'm just sticking with 25 years. That will stay as it is. 3 sets of legislation. So I've worked in New Zealand, England and Australia, but 20 years within the Australian legislative environment. So I'm really, really across it. Personally, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm really fascinated by human behaviour and motivation. My coaching qualification is in neuro leadership, so I'm fascinated by the brain and how it works and how motivation kind of works within that. And I've also worked in leadership myself, so I get it. I get how hard it is. I understand motivating and inspiring people to perform can be really challenging, and humans are kind of full of all sorts of interesting quirks. So I can kind of really understand and empathise from your perspective the different challenges that you're faced with. So that's it.